Wonderful and amazing. Namaste. I hope you guys are having an amazing journey that we're all on, called humanity, the experiencing. It's so wonderful and beautiful, and yet we have so much to deal with our concepts of shifting and changing. That's massive, and if you or spending the time of dealing with, or even coming to that consciousness of the real battle between, it seems to be really hard for people that I've talked to be able to grasp the reality that there's lots of things that have been said and planted in us, and we have all of those based off of a mindset of me, the person. And so, I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that most humans, for the most part, maybe with the exception of now, there's always been some that understood, but it's coming to the concept now that we are something maybe more than just this human person that we have. And I think it seems to be really difficult to people to recognize what a lot of things that have been said, that they really aren't applicable, quote unquote, to your humanity. So it's as if we certainly are a duality, but it's as if it's kind of hard for people to get their mind wrapped around the reality that this isn't you. And so, you get up and you look in the mirror, and all you can see is the self, and you go, well, that's me. And it makes it very difficult, because that is I don't know how to really say it. It is such a jump from realizing that this person that I've known my whole life is not me at all. The true you, the higher self you, is the person who does right in every situation. The person that is you, the higher self, is the one that is conscious. And so I made a statement, and I'm as always, I'm thankful when Source brings insight and revelation. And we oftentimes equate and take statements that were actual spiritual statements and used out of context to manipulate And because that's what we were programmed, we still have that understanding. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of what is in the Bible, because you weren't aware that it was a corrupted mystical teaching, and really it's just a massive compilation, you know. There's none of it that is specific to any individual people. All the lies, I mean, the historical parts of the Jews are history, but all the rest of that nonsense is nothing but stories that existed for thousands of years before they ever became even what you would call a people. And so it's really hard for people when you tell them these truth concepts. Yeshua knew them. He taught them. And so you heard words, but the words never registered because your consciousness wasn't capable of dealing with the reality of what he was saying. And that's okay. We're all in that place. This is supposed to be a journey. And so I wanted to kind of speak a few words before we go into the Corpus Hermeticum and just tell you, everybody out there is trying to sell this higher consciousness thing. And I would like to give you an insight of wisdom that I'm relatively sure most people haven't considered. See, there's so much corruption that's still functioning in everything today, and I've talked about that, and of course oftentimes it makes me, look like the bad person or whatever, but everyone is telling everyone that it's only through you somehow morphing yourself, and unfortunately most of the time that comes perceived as I have to make myself this avatar. I have to make that better so that I can have higher frequency. And I want to tell you a truth that many people have never even thought about. Folks, we are all directly tied, and there is, if you want to give it a numeric number, 50% of you is the highest frequency that exists, the frequency of God, if you would. And really what is going on is people are beating themselves, and they're maybe falling into shame and struggle and all of this internal thing, and so I hope someone will hear this and it'll help them. There is nothing that we can do to raise our higher frequency. What we must do is learn how to kill or quail, or as you hear in shadow work, because it's all saying the exact same thing, how to put to rest the avatar that is overshadowing your frequency. So stop and ponder this for a second. Many of you probably never even thought about this, much less. And of course, unfortunately, what comes from divine always comes. I've seen people, when I say words like that we are supposed to be higher intelligence, that's a truth, okay? True high frequency people possess superior intellect. It's not something they did, it's something they receive, okay? But the problem is that's not going to come in your mind. If you think somehow if you get high enough frequency, you're all of a sudden going to get smarter, keep on. People have been trying to do that for thousands of years. The source consciousness and intelligence that I'm talking about, friend, is released. It is received by releasing, if you would. And it has nothing to do with your mind. What's happening is people are trying to somehow think that they can mentally ascend, and it's impossible. You'll never accomplish it. You'll end up right back in here again. And just so you know, this cycle that we're in, and we are in a cycle, and it has been spoken of, the things I've been finding, I'm working very diligently trying to find where I can actually get transcripts of some of these. I've sent some out, and some people seem to be like, wow, I can't believe that. Folks, you have no idea how much instruction that the Anunnaki gave us through the Sumerians that we have been totally oblivious from, and it has been hidden from us intentionally. Because if we find those things out, it's not as difficult to become you, the true you, the one that is the head and not the tail. But that isn't available to you as a human. So all of the promises of God are yes and amen to those that believe, are not to the human part of you. They are to the higher consciousness part of you, because you already are. And so everyone is trying to change their self, and the truth is that you really have to be conscious of your behaviors and of your thoughts. But on the other side, you really have to learn how to allow the piece that you're not listening to that isn't your mind. You hear a lot of spirit people talk about direct knowledge is not head knowledge. I can read 29 books, and you can read 29 books and be no more spiritual than you were before you started, because spirituality in the truest form does not come from your mental acumen. It comes from direct knowledge given from the spirit realm. God consciousness, Christ consciousness, those things are manifestations of you syncing up with your higher self, not your physical self. And that's a real tripping point. Most people are living there and will continue. Most of the people who hear me say these words won't have an idea about what I'm even talking about. And yet, it is one of the pieces of the pathway out of this joint that you call life, which is actually a prison. You can choose to not believe that. You can choose to believe it. It's certainly a free will for you. People are going to continue to come back in. But where we are right now, while it is chaotic and will be for the next 10 plus years or so until what's happening, because there's already things that are fixing to start manifesting next month that will begin in the magnetic energetic field of this earth, folks. We are going through some stuff. The good news is it's not going to exactly be like the flood, but it is a cycle just like the flood was. And so we are ignorant to it, and most people don't want to know. They want to know that they can do something and become something, and because of that, and in reality, we already are something. We just have to release something. And if you're trying to do it the other way, it's exactly like Solomon said. It's futile. You can read all the books in the world, and you still won't understand what I'm talking about. Solomon was talking about the same words I'm talking about, dear friend, in most of his writings. So I just would like to encourage you that you first off maybe try to at least think about it. If you aren't really trying to function in the physical realm, and you hear these words and you apply them to the physical realm, it wasn't a joke when Paul said that you must die. It wasn't a joke. He was serious as a heart attack. You must die. You, the physical, must die for the spiritual to come forward. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you encounter a physical death. It actually is more of a mental death. Although inevitably at the end our bodies will die and our time will pass. That cycle doesn't stop. But it's not about that at all. That's why Yeshua constantly told us over and over again, you have to go inside, you have to go inside. You're not inside for your mind. You may sit and think that you're being quiet and think that you're inside of your mind, and you still haven't accomplished. That's why many people waste their time meditating and they never accomplish anything. The smartest way you could ever learn to meditate is to think nothing. Works real well for me. So I hope that you will understand we are in a space and time that is ancient, that is known, and the only way and the reason why it has been suppressed is because if you learn, it's not going to make you a super god. It gives you insight about what is coming, which helps you then to make a decision as to who you're going to be. Are you going to be yourself? Are you going to continue to be Rob Turner? Are you going to continue to be David McKee? Are you going to continue to be Mary Ann? Or are you going to choose to be your higher true self? And that's a choice you have to make. And if you make the wrong choice, you pay the price for it. It's not going to hell. It's coming back into this life in the worst possible time, because the cycle we're in right now, the next incarnation cycle, is back to where they were when Atlantis fell, which is, and it'll be another 12,000 year cycle before they get back, if the universe even allows this to happen again. Some say this will never happen. This is the end of humanity as we know it. If you remember the old song on the radio, it's the end of the world as we know it. That song has much significance to it. It's not going to be the same, folks. 6 months from now, this earth is not going to be the same. And so it really is, there's really not anything that's more important than the decisions and choices you made. And I'm going to keep preaching my truth. It's authentic, it's real, and I know it's truth, and it's okay. It doesn't even matter to me who listens, okay? What matters is that I fulfill my place while I'm here, because that's what I came here, is not for everybody to like me. I came here to tell truth. And that's what you're supposed to be here for, but most people won't accept that responsibility. And so the reality of it is that all of this was setting up for where we're at. So I'll get off my box. But there was some really good stuff in there for those of you that hear it. And so the Corpus Hermeticum, let's see what he says that duplicates what I said. The Corpus Hermeticum. This was written to Asclepius. This is Hermes continuing the teaching he's been on. And he says, is not again this cosmos vast, so vast, that than it there exists nobody greater. No body of place, not a physical body. And Asclepius says, assuredly. And Hermes says, and massive too. For it is crammed with the multitudes of other mighty frames, nay, rather all the other bodies that there are. Okay, so this is an ancient document that says and verifies exactly what all the other ancient documents tell us. And for those of you that don't know, actually the pieces that the Bible taught you, when you begin to see the Sumerian texts, you begin to see where they stole that piece of the original story from. And that's all they did. It's exactly the same thing Christianity did with the New Testament. They went back, found some ancient documents, stole those documents and brought them in here and told everybody this is new. And it was never new. Everything that we know, everything that has happened on this earth is ancient prior to the flood. Tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of years ago, they were building huge cities all over this earth. They're finding more evidence of that than you can imagine. We have been massively duped as humanity, and the government's part of it, and Christianity's part of it. They are the hiding force, if you will, the archonic spirit. And so, and massive too, for it is crammed with multitudes of other mighty frames, nay, rather all of the other bodies that there are. It is, and yet the cosmos is a body. It is a body, and one that moved. Asclepius says assuredly. And so Hermes says, of what size then must be the space in which it is moved, and of what kind must be the nature of that space? Must it not be far vaster than the cosmos, in order that it may be able to find room for its continued course, so that the moved may not be cramped for want of room and lose its motion? Something thrice, greatest one, it needs must be immensely vast. And so we have now the Voyager that has been traveling, and it has encountered walls at, I don't know where it's at, 40 billion light years away from us. That means what we see on the camera happened there 40 billion years ago. In case you didn't understand when they say those words, what they're actually telling you by saying billions of light years. And so, something thrice, greatest one, it needs must be immensely vast. And Hermes says, and of what nature? Must it not be, Asclepius, of just the contrary, and is not contrary to the body, bodiless? Asclepius agrees. And Hermes says, space then is bodiless. But bodiless must either be some godlike thing or God himself. And by some godlike thing, I mean no more the generable, in other words, that which is generated, but the ingenerable. There's nothing that has any form whatsoever of any form of control. And so he says, if then space for some godlike thing, it is substantial, but if 'tis God himself, it transcends substance, but it is to be thought of otherwise than God, and in this way. God is first unthinkable for us, not for himself, simply for us. We do not have the capacity to understand all that God is. If someone told you, you still would not understand. And that's why when I say those words, it's not in any way, I mean, this is deep stuff, and some people maybe have a better, an easier time of incorporating it, and other people sit and it goes in their ears and out their ears, and they have no more knowledge than they had if they'd have never heard it. That's not that's just the difference in who people are. So God is first unthinkable for us, not for himself, for that the thing that's thought doth fall beneath the thinker's sense. God then cannot be thinkable unto himself, in that he's thought of by himself as being nothing else but what he thinks. But he is something else for us, and so he's thought of by us. Anu. Just so you know, and it's a piece that I really wanted. I've found some documents and I'm trying to read them. The Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis, and then the Lost Book of Enki. And the Lost Book of Enki is really the one that I want. Just so that you know, friends, I have experienced and I have been blessed to see who the true God that created us was. He wasn't Anunnaki and his name was Enki. He is the Savior. If you put it under the context that Christianity was trying to use, he was the ancient one of the Anunnakis. Anunnaki, when you hear that term, some of you have been hearing it, Anunnaki means the ones who came from the sky. That's all that name means. Why? Because those gods came from the sky. They are physical beings. They are not like we were told that they are spirit beings. They actually have recently, funny enough, they have actually found one that died on this earth. And he has the elongated power head. He is huge in stature. And guess what? They cannot find anything according to DNA that matches a human. Nothing. And so these things they love to very hush-hush because they don't want the masses to know, because the masses are too weak and stupid to deal with reality that they could tell people. That's why they do the same thing with the UFOs. Everybody knows. But just so you know that the time that we're in fits absolutely in every parameter, and all of the, if you want to use the term prophecies, because I don't really see them as prophecies, they're actually the completion of cycles that were known. That's not necessarily a prophecy, it's actually the completion of a cycle. And we are living in right smack dab in the middle of the completion of a cycle, the same place that the Atlanteans were when Atlantis fell. And so it's absolutely beautiful. But Enki is the one who modified your DNA and created you from a beast, and him and Nananta, and they are the creators of humans, the human workers. He is the savior that told who the Christian Bible deemed as being Noah. Noah was non-existent. He wasn't a real being, probably even. But Zua, I can't get all the names right yet, but he was told by Enki, the Anunnaki gods said, we're going to kill them. We're tired of hearing them. They're loud, they're noisy, they're rebellious. We're tired of having them as workers. And there were two beings who said that they felt like that we had more value than that. Enki was one. He was the god of knowledge. He was the god, the creator of humans. He was the genetic engineer of us. He created our DNA, and all of a sudden there are now very many physics, astrophysicists, and quantum physics people that are reading the Sumerian documents, and every time they do, they come to the same conclusion. What the Sumerians wrote is right. They have not found, and this is almost impossible to do, they have not found one error in any of the technical geometry of humanity that the Sumerians were wrong about. Just like they can't find anywhere that these people that had no telescopes actually charted the stars better than we do with computers. So we're in a really strange place, and because it's so foreign, and it's even going to be foreign, one of the prophecies, and we have reached that 8 billion people is the mathematic calculation. When the Earth, that's one of the steps that has to happen. It's a code. And we have accomplished that just recently, that there are now 8 billion people on the earth. And the writing tells us that when we meet these criteria, that they are coming back. It's funny because last night after working, I sat down and put on some teachings, and 2 or 3 different people, the conversation was about, is it really true that there's going to be aliens coming back? Folks, they're not aliens. They're going to be the Anunnakis, and the Anunnakis told us 5,000 years ago they were coming back when we met these thresholds. We meet every one of them. So it's not, for me, it's been, instead of a scary alien thing, what we're going to see is we're going to see the gods who created all of us in the first place. There is no God as you know a God. There is a higher God, Anu, who is above everyone. He would be what we would call source. And all of this stuff is massively documented. Massively documented. You just have no knowledge of it. And you won't unless you go search it out. Those that seek will find. Those that do nothing find nothing. So, anyways, that's. I really want to get some of these that I've been blessed enough to read, and I would like to get them printed out so I could read what the Sumerians 5,000 years told you was going to happen and what the parameters for it happening were all about. And so, at least 10 that I know of, 10 different situations that have to do with humanity, and we, in every one of them, are within that time frame. And so, and of what nature must it not be, Asclepius, or just the contrary? And it is not contrary to the body, bodiless. He says agreed. Space then is bodiless, but bodiless must either be some godlike thing or God himself, godlike thing. I mean, no more the generable, in other words, that which is generated, but the ingenerable. And so if then space be some godlike thing, it is substantial. But if this God himself, it transcends substance. But it is to be thought of otherwise than God, and in this way. God is first thinkable for us, not for himself, for that the thing that's thought doth fall beneath the thinker's sense. God then cannot be thinkable unto himself, in that he's thought of by himself as being nothing else but what he thinks. But he is something else for us, and so he's thought of by us. If space is therefore to be thought, dig that, if space is therefore to be thought, it should not then be thought as God, but space. If God is also to be thought, he should not be conceived as space, but as energy that can contain all space. And so here you go again, another ancient document that is validating many of the things. There were some true people that have been channelers, and channelers have always existed. All of your prophets that were in the Bible, any of them that were real, were all channeling. They weren't talking to some strange God. They were functioning in their higher self. And it wasn't Yahweh they were talking to, or that was sending this supernatural divine knowledge about what they should do next or what was going to happen to Israel. It's none of that stuff. They were simply contacting, and they had moved their human out of the picture, and they were functioning in the higher self. And that's exactly what we're all supposed to be doing, is moving our flesh away. We are supposed to be killing it daily, Paul said. Yeshua pretty much said the same words every day. If you remain the same as you are from day to day, you have done no work that day for yourself, for your higher self. And so he says, how is it then? Further, all that is moved not in the moved, but in the stable. And that which moves another is of course stationary, for it's impossible that it should move with it. How is it then that things down here, thrice greatest one, are moved with those that are already moved? For thou hast said, the errant spheres were moved by the inerrant one. This is not, O Asclepius, a moving with, but one against. They are not moving with one another, but one against the other. It is this contrariety which turneth the resistance of their motion into rest. For that resistance is the rest of motion. And so, hence, too, the errant spheres being moved contrarily to the inerrant one, are moved by one another by mutual contrariety, and also by the stable one through contrariety itself. And this can otherwise not be. The bears up there, which neither sit nor rise, thinkest thou they rest or move? They move, thrice greatest one. And what their motion, my Asclepius? Motion that turns forever round the same. But revolution, motion around same, is fixed by rest. For round the same does stop beyond same. Then being stopped, if it be steadied in round same, the contrary stands firm, being rendered ever stable by its contrariety. So you can grab a piece of that the resistance that we feel The resistance that we feel both in spatial places, but this also can be inside of you. The resistance that you feel sometimes is the thing that keeps you in balance. Because if you did not have some resistance, you would fall out of balance. And so while they're talking about a spirit, there's a spiritual principle and concept there. The question has been asked forever, why did God create evil? And many of you know the answer, that for us to see good, we must know that evil is the opposite. Whether you understand it or not, all of this race nonsense, and it's nothing but nonsense, all of the things that are happening political, and it's all nonsense, all of those things are created and they're popping like they are. Actually, we're in a more peaceful time than we've probably ever been, and yet because of where people are at in their minds, this seems like such a massively horrible time. It's chaotic. It's supposed to be chaotic because chaotic is for those who will become enlightened, the essence of what I desire to move away from. Okay? So what's happening right now, those that are not, I don't even want to use the term enlightened, but those who are spirit beings seeking the truth are starting to move away, and those that are not interested in the truth are also starting to move away. Maybe some of you have experienced. That's why on Saturday when Yeshua tells us that only those that are of like precious faith will form together. Inevitably, anything, and it could be anything, will cause those who are spiritually dissimilar to separate. That's why oftentimes separation comes. It told us on Saturday also, watch who somebody spends their free time with, and you will figure out who that person is, whether they are high spirit or low spirit. Well, I don't want to be around y'all because all y'all talk about is spirit thing. I want to go over here and hang out and get drunk and hang out with my friends that have no consciousness whatsoever. It manifests. It's right there in front of you, but most people don't grab that concept. The source, the universe, was telling us that we are supposed to be the greatest human watchers that exist on the face of this earth, because that's how we know who they are, and that's how we know who we are. And yet people are unconscious at the max level in many cases, and they have no consciousness of it. They're not aware. They just think they're doing what they wanted to, and they don't understand. Nothing is what you want to do. Everything is spiritual. Every thought you have, every behavior you have, every decision you have, all of those things are spirit. Whether you know it or not, that's a sad thing that you don't, but in reality, it's absolutely the truth. That's why you hear constantly in this society, you hear that people, when they're in their quiet time, is when they are actually creating their reality. Because a person who has a desire for a reality, and I'm not talking about the most important thing that's being taught today, which is the manifestation of massive money, that should be a dead giveaway. Kenneth Copeland taught everybody how to manifest money. You tell people whatever they want to hear, and you pat them on the head, and you send them home with they can be saved, and they'll give you their life savings. You tell them the truth, and they won't be back. It's really obvious, but many people don't see it. And so he says they moved thrice, greatest one, Asclepius says. And what their motion, my Asclepius, motion that turns forever round the same. But revolution, motion around same, is fixed by rest. Have I told you guys that everything that has to do with the spirit realm is paradoxical? For every don't do that, there's a do it. For every do it, there's a don't do it. That's the paradox. The good is, and you saw this when I shared the Kabbalion with you, because everything is on the same line. It's just a matter of which end you're on. If you're on this end, then the same thing is perceived to be negative. If you're on this end, then the same thing is perceived to be positive. But they're the exact same thing, and that always is working. That's why Source says, be what you want to be. Behave, act like you want to be. Not like everybody is, not like you should because of somebody else's behavior. You are obligated to act like you want. If you want to be what all of that is, that's what you will be. On the other side, if you want to be what he is and what we are in our higher self, then that's what you must be. But it's a choice you make on either side. It's just on the same line. It's just different ends. Source, spirit, truth, love, or self. And that's really the dividing line. And so he says, of this I'll give thee here on earth an instance, which the eye can see. Regard the animals down here. A man, for instance, swimming. The water moves, yet the resistance of his hands and feet give him stability. So it's just like when I say that the chaos that is happening now is actually a kindness from the universe, because the people who that doesn't resonate with, the chaos, it will become a beacon for them. I don't like chaos. I don't want to be a part of this thing. It is a beacon. And the others say, I don't care. So he's really, man, it's really being drawn out. I hope you guys, some of you, I hope you're starting to see it. But it's really profound, and it really is right in your face once you begin to see what really is going on in the earth. It's not to be feared. It's a necessary part of the journey. And so he says, for round the same does stop beyond same. Did I jump? Probably. Okay, I'll give thee here an instance on the earth, which the eye can see. Regard the animals down here. A man, for instance, swimming. The water moves, yet the resistance of his hands and feet give him stability, so that he is not borne along with it, nor sunk thereby. Thou hast thrice greatest one, abduced a most clear instance. All motion then is caused in station and by station. The motion therefore of the cosmos of every other hylic animal will not be caused by things exterior to the cosmos, but by things interior, outward to the exterior. Such things as soul or spirit or some such other thing incorporeal. 'Tis not the body that doth move the living thing in it, nay, not even the whole body of the universe, a lesser body in thou, there be no life in it. So for each and every one of us, it goes back exactly where I started. So he is touching on the whole principle that I started this thing out with. At what point are you going to begin to recognize that you are being controlled by an avatar? You're living in a matrix and you're being controlled by an avatar, and whatever your name happens to be, that's who's controlling you. Because I promise you, if your name is Tom, Tom is not his higher self. Tom is an avatar, whatever your name is. And many people desire to continue living while they convince themselves that they somehow are becoming spiritual. And it's impossible. You cannot. That person must die. And that's a literal death, but not a physical death. Exactly what Paul said. So, most people didn't get it then and didn't want to get it because they didn't want to die. They're happy being what they are. And that's all good as long as you're happy coming back in and living much more torment for however long you continue to choose to do that. And so he says, by no means, O Asclepius, what meanest thou by this, thrice greatest one? Is it not bodies then that move the stock and stone and all the other things inanimate? Hermes says, by no means, O Asclepius. The something in the body, that which moves the thing inanimate, this surely is not a body, for that it moves the two of them, both body of the lifter and the lifted. So that a thing that's lifeless will not move a lifeless thing. That which doth move another thing is animate, in that it is the mover. So do you see that? It is only when your physical self ceases to exist that your higher self takes over. Higher self, because there is such a huge impact and reality in the cosmos about us being allowed to do, we first have to make a choice that we desire to be our true higher self, and then we must make the choice to allow this to die. And if you haven't made that choice, you've missed the whole purpose of anything that has to do with spirituality anyways. I'm sad to say it, but it is very true. Because you'll never find anything. You can go to church your whole life and not be a dime's difference. That's why people go in and out of church and they never change. Because they're looking for the wrong thing to change them. And the only way that they change is when this dies and it no longer has control over their consciousness. That's how it works, friend. There's no other way. You're already complete and total consciousness, but right now your human is ruling you. And you need a new king. So, it's really quite powerful, to be quite honest with you. I never was a huge fan of Paul's, that was obvious, but I have to tell you, man, that guy, he knew the essence of who Yeshua was, maybe better than his own disciples. And so he says, thou seest then how heavy laden is the soul, for it alone doth lift two bodies. It alone. It's carrying us when we are being controlled by our physical body. It's still carrying us. Because your physical body would have done nothing but cause you to kill yourself. That's the significance of the Sumerian documents about who we are. If we did not, folks, we were a mess in all 7 times that they created humanity and then destroyed it. They didn't do that just because they were having fun. They did that because it didn't work. One of the first was a humanoid that couldn't talk. One of the second was a humanoid who couldn't reproduce. And on and on and on and on. Until they finally got our DNA modified enough that were competent, we could think. And the problem is when they got us to that point, that opened because we had divine blood in us, which is the spark. 90% of these people have no consciousness or knowledge of what the divine spark in you is. The divine spark in you is the blood of the Anunnaki that was used to create us. That is the divine spark. Not some God up there that threw some being of light at you. You have the blood of an Anunnaki in your DNA. It was modified so that humans would function as we function. And there's lots of historical proof that is exactly. Modern quantum physics say the Sumerians were more intelligent than they are. They knew what they were talking about. Why? Because they created us. You cannot like that. You can be scared of that. That can make you weaken your knees, or it can make you have all kinds of weird thoughts, but it's not going to change the reality, friends. The Savior that religion was trying to post to you was Anki, an Anunnaki God who loved humans enough to make sure that we weren't completely destroyed at the flood. If he alone had not done what he did, there would be no humans except for the number 9 series that they created. We are the end of number 8. Just in case you haven't known that. And so he says, thou sayest well, O Asclepius, for none of the things that are is void alone, that is not, is void, and stranger to subsistence, for that which is subsistent can never change to void. Did you hear that? For that which is subsistent, our spirit is subsistent. It can never change to nothing. That's where our immortality comes from. It's never going to change. We're always going to be. Your body can die today. Your body isn't subsistent. Your body can't die, can't live without your spirit. When your soul leaves the body collapses. Because it's not the body that's sustaining the soul, it's the soul that's sustaining the body. When the soul leaves, the body dies. We've been so corrupted, man. It's half of the stuff is they must have intentionally sat around, I don't know, drinking wine or smoking hooch or something, and they figured out a way how to make things as complicated as they could make it, so that you would never figure out that you're already divine, and that divinity comes from having blood from a foreign, an alien. if you can deal with that in your mind. Don't worry, I'm about probably 6 months to a year ahead of most people, but you'll hear this all over the internet eventually. It's really amazing how it's so beautiful and it's so pure. It's all choice that we make. It is, I am. I'm not going to die. If I die, I'm not going to die. I'll either make a decision to come back in and go through another lifetime, or I'll make a decision to ascend and become part. See, because here's another piece. Everyone thinks that going to heaven is like a massive retirement. And it's not. Did you guys know that all of the spirit beings that exist, including the Anunnakis, all have jobs? Every one of them. And when I get some of these texts and bring them and read them to you guys, you're going to be amazed that the reason humans were even considered or conceived mentally was because lesser Anunnakis, these were bad Anunnakis who were like prisoners. And they brought them down here. They were the bad Anunnakis. They brought them here and made them work mining this earth. And they finally rebelled, burned all their tools, and said, we ain't doing it no more. That's the story. That's how all of this came to be, that there was a need for a human. Prior to that, there was no need for us. There were animals. There were, I don't know, maybe the Neanderthals were part of that. I don't really know. But that's how we came to even be needing. And it was, if you look at it from the concept of their time, it would have probably, you could have easily said that God created me. And God's name happens to be Enki. And so, are there then, O thrice greatest one, no such thing as an empty cask? For instance, an empty jar, a cup and vat, and other things like unto them? Hermes says, alack, Asclepius, for thy far wandering from the truth. Thinkest thou that things must full and most replete or void? And then, of course, to Asclepius, we move into the next term. I know that this thing is really is very deep, and philosophical philosophy and all of that always is very deep, with lots of paradoxes. Okay, but the true reality of it is that all of these pieces are exactly who we are. Everything is something. There is no emptiness. It may appear empty. This room right here, the air appears empty, but this room is full of energy. That's why if you've ever been in a situation and you have any kind of empathic power, that you walk in a room and you can, or be sitting in a room and somebody's energy changes and you recognize it. In many cases, here's the problem, because you'll recognize it before they even do. I've had that go on thousands of times. It's like you go, okay, well, this just happened. I got it. And if you went and told them, they'd say, that's not true. Okay. But it is. So we have some really blessed gifts that we were given. We're really amazing, a lot more so amazing than what we intend. We scared the Anunnakis because we have the ability to be aware. For those that got to watch the video, if you summed up all those things that I sent to you about what you are to do when you die, awareness is the root of all of it. If you're unaware, then you don't have an option. It is awareness, but it's awareness that leads us on even while we're here. So I hope for each and every one of you that you will pay heed, pay attention, look around, maybe sit in a quiet room, a dark room at night. Works really well. It doesn't take long for a long time to take. And just, you would be surprised in the silence what comes through and what will speak to you, and thoughts that you have that are certainly you can recognize they're not from you. Then you have to judge, is this from an archon, or is this something that's coming from another place in the spirit world? So peace to each and every one of you. I hope you guys will continue. It's moving fast. It's going to continue to move. We are blessed because we have an opportunity that all of our ancestors never had. And so I hope you'll place value on that, and you'll take advantage of that, and let it be your guiding force. Shalom, namaste, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week.